your goal as a parent is not that they feel good about you. That's ridiculous. That's narcissistic. Your goal is that they feel good about themselves. A tantrum is a loss of emotional control at not getting your own way. It is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's nothing that you have to address. Those many therapy sessions are absolute garbage. They're crap. They don't work at all. They make everything worse. It's mean. It's cruel. The kid's finished and you're just reminding him of everything you did wrong. If you get mad and angry and show frustration when they're acting out, it's going to make it worse. In other words, they know they won. They got you mad. They got under your skin. Welcome to the BratBusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at BratBusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into parenting topics and Lisa will answer your questions. Let's get started.
Parenting can be really challenging at times. I'm very aware of that, and that's why we're here. It's one of the reasons we're doing the podcast and all the videos and everything else we do. It's trying to make parenting not just easier, but more fun, more enjoyable, more relaxing, less stressful. So as usual, Amy my daughter, does all the planning with these podcasts. I never know what we're going to be talking about. So you going to tell me what we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, this is one that I know you don't love talking about, but all about tantrums.
Yeah. The reason I don't like talking about it is because I've talked about it so much. I worry that I can't hear what I'm saying anymore. So that's actually why. There's a few topics I don't like discussing at all, except in coaching, because there's so many questions that I need to ask first. That's why there's subjects that I really don't like talking about. Tantrums is just so overdone with me, but I'll do my best because I know how important that is to you. I'm very aware of that. So I'll try and mix up the words a little bit to keep myself a little bit more awake. But you can just imagine how many times I've told these tantrum stories over the last, 20 years anyway. So
I'm just envisioning you having a thesaurus going on your computer.
Different words to use, how to mix it up, how to stay awake. But what's interesting is when I'm talking to clients, it's back and forth and they're looking at me. It just inspires. It's a whole different level. So, but when I'm looking at myself in a screen right now, I don't find myself that interesting. So.
Well, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, but it's not the same because you're not that interested in all this. She's not a mom yet. So it's parents who are like really listening and I'm teaching them. Of course, I'm going to get excited by that. But maybe there is someone out there who's listening to this. So I'll envision talking to someone. That'll help me. Okay. There you go.
Should we create a character that
No, I should get like a little cartoon character, just tape it to my computer.
Yeah, like a Susie just
sitting there.
Just listening.
That's right. Okay, so let's get going with the questions then.
Yeah, that actually does bring. We might, if you are ever interested in hearing podcast episodes where we actually get live callers in, let us know because that's something that we are toying around with.
Well, because I do lives all the time and I love that because then I've got someone to feed off of, right? That sounds kind of shark-like, but you know what I mean. It's just different. So yeah, we're kind of looking into how we're going to bring you in on the podcast. So if you have any ideas, I don't know anything about podcasts. My daughter does, but it's up to you. You are the ones who lead what we do. Like we're not doing what we want to do. We're doing what you want us to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we love doing this. But it's definitely your involvement has been so critical to it. It's been amazing because I'll go on your stories for Instagram and ask what topics you'd like to hear from. And it's really parent led. It's
all up to you. That's why we're here. We're serving you. We're not just talking about what we want to talk about. If we would be, we'd be talking about maybe sewing or
I'd be talking about cooking.
Oh, and cleaning. I love cleaning, but you're not interested in all that stuff. So yeah. That's why we're talking about parenting. So yeah, it's up to you. Do you want to be involved in this podcast? Do you want to come on? We could potentially do it live with you. It could just be like a coaching session, which would of course be free if you're willing to come on here and be public. So it could be something like that. We don't know yet. We're just sort of thinking about it. Now, what happened was the podcast just started 3 months ago, maybe. It's just taken off. Now we're doing 2 a week. We might end up doing more. I don't know. But yeah, we're just doing what you're going to, what you want from us. So anyway, enough said about that. It's parent led basically. So you let us know if you want to be involved in the podcast and how.
Yeah, we do have quite a few parent questions today, so maybe we'll go right in. And unless there's something you want to just briefly say about tantrums.
Oh God, no.
Okay. I'm sure it'll come out.
It'll come flying out like everything else does.
Okay, so Melanie from the United States I have 2-year-old twin boys, and we've been dealing with a lot of tantrums recently. Sharing has been very difficult and can turn into a fight between the boys. I'm looking for advice on how to manage and wait out the tantrum while also trying to instruct the other twin not to grab and separate the boys. Any overall advice around twin tantrums would be amazing. I'm sure there's a twin community out there that would be so grateful for a twin-specific episode.
I've got tons of clients with twins right now, a lot of them. And I've worked with triplets too. So they're no different from any other kids who are similar in age and want the same things. It's the exact same thing. But what you said that was kind of interesting, Melanie, is you said that without separating them, you kind of have to separate them because they're two. Twins, toddlers do not do the wrong thing because they don't understand what they should or shouldn't do. That has nothing to do with it. It's because they can't control themselves. So they know they shouldn't be grabbing toys. They know they shouldn't be fighting. So it's up to you to physically restrain them from doing these things. It's physical. It's not about words. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. And it's what you do with them, not what you say to them. So anyway, what I would do is I would separate them if they're fighting. But you be careful. Like, you don't just separate the one who hits all the time, because they might just be retaliating for the one that grabbed the toy. So as soon as they start fighting, you say no and you walk over and pull one away. And maybe just read a book to that one or something. Just in other words, keep them separate for a few minutes. Put them back together. When they start up again, take the other one away. Go back and forth and back and forth. I know it's exhausting, but sorry, you got toddlers. They are exhausting. It's just part of it. It's not words, it's actions. And they learn through repetition. They don't learn the first 10 or 20 or 50 times. It might take 51 to 100 times. But they will eventually learn that there's a consequence every time they fight. But yeah, it's a slow burn. I'm sorry, but there's no easy answer. None.
Are there any other twin tips?
Not really, but you will notice that twins will often develop very different personalities. Now, why is that? Why is one easier going than the other? Not always, but usually you'll see that. It's because they're trying to get their own identities going. So if one masters something, the other one will go, well, I give up with that. I'll find something else. They do tend to have opposing personalities. Which I find quite interesting. And there's been studies on that. What's interesting is I saw this one study, and they said that identical twins who are separated at birth, that doesn't happen much anymore, but this is like, a long time ago, their personalities are almost identical if they don't grow up together. Isn't that fascinating?
I've never heard that.
Yeah, and I just saw that one. There's always a study that can prove anything. There's probably other studies that prove that wrong. But I remember seeing that probably decades ago. And they said, yeah, when they don't grow up together, their personalities are almost identical. So anyway, but yeah, that's why they tend to get opposing personalities. So watch that. If one's really dominating the other, I don't want to go into that too much, but there's a few things that I might change if one is really dominant over the other and if the other is not happy about it. If they're happy about it, let it go.
Okay. Next question is Bianca from Spain. So there were a couple of questions, but this is just one of them. So 3-year-old son. When we apply a consequence to bad behavior, he yells, shut up, or hits. Should this be followed by another consequence? Or can I take this as emotional frustration and ignore it, i.e. quietly move him away when hitting, etc.? He does it automatically when he bursts out, gets very angry. We have been reacting on it with anger because, wow. Should we apply file nails and push him calmly away and no lecturing on not shouting this and hitting?
Okay, I got a little bit mixed up now. Bianca's from Spain, I think, so it might be a bit of a language thing. Something about filing nails. So you were ignoring it, like doing the nail filing like you do with tantrums, like you just ignore the tantrum, but it look like you're filing your nails or something, like you could care less. Anyway, I would put no hitting on the behavior board. And every time they hit, I would say no, and then there'd be a consequence. If they hit during the consequence, let it go. Just physically restrain them from hitting you. So yeah, it is an emotional outburst. That was a very good way of putting it, by the way. That was an emotional outburst. So yeah, I would let it go once the consequence is in action. But yeah, 3-year-old, they know better by now. They're just frustrated because you're trying to take control. And it usually gets worse before it gets better. Your anger, you already know this, your anger is just adding fuel to the fire. So just stay as calm as possible. I remember years ago, my son, he's 35 now, he's about 5, and he had a friend over. And this friend I'd never had him over before. I didn't know the parents or anything. It was just a school friend. So this friend was a little bit destructive. He was ripping up a book or something, and my son, and he says, oh, and the kid said to my son, oh, your mom's going to yell at me. I guess he was looking for trouble. I don't know. And my son said to him, and I heard all this, and my son said to him, no, he said, she doesn't yell, but if my mom whispers, run. When you're disciplining, it's very calm. Like I would have said, okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. You ripped up that book, so you can come and sit with me in the kitchen for, I would have talked like that. Very, very calm. So yeah, if you get mad and angry and show frustration when they're acting out, it's going to make it worse. In other words, they know they won. They got you mad. They got under your skin. And that's what they're after.
So it's adding fuel to the fire?
Oh, absolutely. Your anger is just making it 10 times worse. So yeah, that's why I stay very calm. Am I angry on the inside? Yeah. Do I show it? Nope, no way. Because I know how well it works not to.
I'm realizing as we're getting into these questions, if someone's this is their first time ever hearing you, maybe it might be a good idea for you to go into how you approach tantrums.
Oh, that's a good idea, because if you're brand new here, you don't know how I deal with tantrums, although I was complaining about how much I talk about them all the time, and you might not have heard anything. You're like, what are you doing? You're skipping over all that? Anyway, I'll tell you, should I tell the swing story? It's a little bit long, but it's probably my best tantrum story. Okay, this is a true story. My son was 2 years old, and I went to the park, and there was another mom with a 2-year-old there. I didn't know her. She was new in the neighborhood. So we had two 2-year-old boys, and 2 moms. There was 2 swings, and there were 2 benches at this park, and it was just us. So anyway, we're all excited to meet each other. You know what it's like when you're stuck at home with a little kid, trying to meet other moms and chat. And funny thing is, all you talk about is your kids anyway, so figure that one out. But anyway, so we're all excited. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I'm whatever, Michelle, I don't remember what her name was. So anyway, we're just chatting away, and we're putting our little boys on the swings. And as we're doing so, we're not paying much attention to them, but they're both pointing to the other swing. They wanted the other swing. So I said, well, fine, who cares? Let's just switch them. As we went to switch them over, they both started screaming like a tantrum. So, because kids taught, 2, they're nuts, right? So anyway, this is what she did. She took her son over to the bench, and he was kicking and screaming and having a tantrum. She's talking the whole time. You shouldn't do that. I know you're a good boy. Mommy loves you. And if you don't do that, or she was bribing him, she was threatening him. She was pulling everything out of her hat she could think of. Nothing was working. Finally, about 20 minutes later, he got the hiccup cries. When they're finished with their tantrum, they're like, so he's finished. And I'm watching her, and I'm thinking, what's she going to do now? Is she going to keep messing up? Sure enough, she did. She gave him a mini therapy session discussing everything he did wrong and what he should have done right. He's 2. Those mini therapy sessions are absolute garbage. They're crap. They don't work at all. They make everything worse. It's mean. It's cruel. The kid's finished, and you're just reminding him of everything he did wrong. I think it's humiliating. Anyway, so about another 10 minutes of that, and then my son gone home, so I didn't see what happened after that. So anyway, so they had a miserable time, 30 minutes at the park. Here's what I did. This is when the tantrum first started. She took her son over to one bench. I took my son over to the other. So I sat him down, kicking and screaming on the bench, and I sat him down. He went to run for the swing. I threw my arm out fast, and he couldn't get past me. He sat right back. He already knew me. He knew there was no way he was going to get back on that swing, so he kind of gave in at that point. But he's still kicking and screaming and having a tantrum, but he's sitting back very politely on the bench doing so, because he knew me. He knew there's no point in trying to get to that swing. So about 2 minutes in, and I'm ignoring him. I'm looking at the trees, the birds. I'm just looking around. No way would I look at him or talk to him while he's having a tantrum. A tantrum is a loss of emotional control at not getting your own way. It is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. It's nothing that you have to address. If you discuss it or look at them or talk to them, you are literally validating that tantrum. You're going to make it worse. You're giving it fuel. Okay, because tantrum, and you're fertilizing it basically. You're watering and fertilizing it if you're looking at them and talking to them. So I ignore the crazy. They're in the crazy zone. I completely ignore them. As soon as he's done, it lasted about 2 minutes. As soon as he's finished, then I look at him and I said, oh, you all done? Let's go back on the swing. So I ignore the crazy, which is the tantrum. Then I reward the calm by looking at him and giving him attention. You're not giving them a candy or anything, but okay, it's over. Let's go back on the swing. So his tantrum lasted 2 minutes. Hers was a nightmare on that bench. It was just a nightmare. Do you get what the difference is? She was doing all the mini therapy session stuff. She was feeding the tantrum, fertilizing it, watering it. It was getting worse and worse. She joined in. I stayed on the high road, waiting for him to join me there. She went right to the low road with him. She was right in the tantrum with him. She was living it with him. Who's there to pull them up? Nobody. Anyway, that's the swing story.
I guess I can see where that parent's coming from, in the sense of, when you hear it, just if you hear it like objectively, it can almost sound like it's the kinder way to approach it.
Here's the thing. And when you were saying kind of makes sense, I was holding my tongue, because it makes sense if you're talking to an adult. It makes 0 sense with a toddler. That's the ignorance of people teaching that stuff, which drives me freaking insane. That you are disrespecting that toddler by entering that tantrum. You are helping them continue to have a tantrum. It makes perfect sense for an adult to discuss it with an adult. It makes perfect sense. He's 2. He's developing. He's brand new. He's only been in the world for 2 years. The first year he was a potato laying on a mattress. And you're doing a therapy session with him? It drives me nuts because I see it all the time and I feel sorry for those kids. That is the mean thing to do, dragging it out, dragging it out. Instead, I'm waiting for it to end fast and then we go right on the swing. My son was swinging for 28 minutes while that kid was being tortured by the kind method that you talk about. Sorry, you see, I do get into it, don't I? I'm very passionate about what I teach. Anyway, yeah, I think that's the mean way to do it. Dragging it out is mean. Letting them have it out, letting them learn how to get themselves out of it because they know that there's a rainbow at the end of that storm. They know that. My kids knew that. Well, you never had a tantrum, but my son knew that. He knew that as soon as he shut up, Mom was going to look at him, talk to him, take him back to the swing. He knew that. He was learning that. He knew tantrum's bad, being good, good. He knew that. He was starting to figure it out. Whereas this kid didn't have a clue. So I'm still being punished. I'm still on this bench and I'm still like he just didn't, it's for the mom. That was for the mom. It had nothing to do with him. And she was doing it. She thought she was doing the right thing. That's what's frustrating is I don't know who's teaching all that stuff, but people are listening and thinking that that's the right thing to do. So it's not the parents' fault. They don't have experience with all this. It's whoever's teaching it is driving me nuts. I don't know anyone else out there, but yeah, don't keep teaching that because you're just ruining these kids and these parents. You're just making it miserable for them. Yeah, I'm very opinionated. Are you going to cut this out?
No, but it's helpful that I've watched so many of your lives because I feel like I know which questions to ask.
She does.
To bring this out.
She knows how to poke the bear. Well, isn't that the kinder way?
I'm going off of what I see in the comment section a lot. And this is genuine, a lot of questions. And to be perfectly honest, I don't have kids. Like there are so many different approaches out there. I know that you don't look at them, but there are so many different ways to parent. And so it is overwhelming.
I know that. But you got to pick who makes sense to you. If I don't make sense to you, then go on to someone else. If you're going, you know what? That makes sense. Maybe you should follow me for a while. Maybe you should give it a go. Try it for 3 weeks. See how it goes.
Yeah, this next question actually kind of leans into this a little. So Molly from the United States. I have a 10-month-old and I am now doing research on how to make sure when she becomes a toddler, things do not get more difficult than they should. I like to do prevention rather than treatment in every part of life. Your philosophy and approach is very appealing to me. I really agree with it, so I plan to take the boot camp before she turns 15 months old. I just have one question I'm not comfortable with. If you ignore the tantrum, which is a loss of emotional control, won't they learn that their emotions should be ignored and they cannot express them? I want her to know that she can always come to me with any emotion she has. I always support her no matter what. She does not need to bottle up anything. This is also what Gabor... Oh, goodness gracious, I'm going to Gabor Mate. Am I saying that correct?
I don't know.
I hope so.
I don't know. I don't know who you're talking about.
This is also what Gabor Mate, Hold On to Your Kid, talks about, which is also something that really resonated with me.
Okay, I don't critique anyone else, okay? If I'm complaining about a method, I'm not complaining about anyone. So as soon as you say a name who I don't know anybody else out there teaching this, I'm very careful. I stay out of that because I'm kid taught. One thing that you said that I'm going to just correct is you said you want to do prevention. You can't. With toddlers, it's all reacting to what they come up with. That's why in the boot camp course for toddlers, there's no plan. It's just it's different from the other boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old. There's a plan because they can stop and think before they act. Plus, you kind of know what they're going to do at 3 years old. They all kind of are more similar. But toddlers, some will kick, some won't. Some will have tantrums, some won't. You're more reacting to what they come up with. So I don't think you can do much prevention. The only prevention you can do, you play with them a lot, love them up and all that stuff. But the only prevention that you can do is make sure that they understand when you say something, it's going to happen. I was very careful what I said because I knew I was going to be following through. Whereas if a parent isn't like that and you say, okay, we're going to go change your diaper now, and the kid might kick up a bit of a fuss, I know darn well that parent doesn't always follow through. Whereas with my kids, they learned very fast when I said, we're going to go change your diaper now. They didn't tend to fight me because they knew we're going to go change your diaper now. So you be consistent with what you say. Now, I want to address that tantrum stuff. I don't want to hurt their feelings or anything. I already touched on that earlier in this podcast. And I said tantrums are not feelings and emotions. They are loss of emotional control at not getting their own way. Do you understand the difference there? It's a loss of control of their emotions. And they will often say, hug, hug during a tantrum. Don't hug them. They can grab onto you. That's fine. Don't hug them or anything. There's no validating that tantrum. There's no attention given to it. Okay? It is not emotions and feelings. They will certainly come to you. What this does is it steers them in a different direction. So they learn that tantrums don't work. I know. I'll go up and just give a hug other times because they know they're not going to get a hug from me during a tantrum. There's no way. And it's not a love hug. That's a validate me hug, validate me, validate me. That's all that is. It has nothing to do with feelings and emotions. You're loving them up, but you're guiding them away from that craziness so that you can have more calm, lovely times with them. You see? Has nothing to do with their feelings and their emotions or their self-esteem. It's quite the opposite. If you keep feeding it with attention, their self-esteem, well, not so much it too, but it actually lowers their enjoyment and their quality of life. Because the tantrums are going to keep going.
Yeah, I think that is definitely in the comment section. The idea of kids who bottle up their emotions because of this, that's a fear.
Well, that is absolute crap. It's crap. It's just garbage. And sorry if you said that before, but it has nothing to do with it. Because kids know that once they're respectful and nice and they're talking nicely, I'm right there for them. But they know when they're nuts and rude and kicking and screaming, why on earth would I reward that? That's what you're doing, rewarding it. Why would I do that? It's not kind to reward because you're going to get more of that. You're going to turn them into difficult kids that everyone thinks a pain in the butt. I don't want to go on. I can feel myself. I'm going to go on a spiel again. I'm going to withhold it. I can feel it coming. So you better interrupt me with another question.
Okay. Well, this next one also flows in. So Julie from Canada, how do you handle a meltdown if the cause is that your 2-year-old wanted a hug, but you weren't available yet? My gut was telling me to comfort her once I was done with what I was doing, despite normally having no issue with waiting out a tantrum.
Okay, she wanted a hug before, but you didn't say why. Was she upset or was she just not getting her own way and she wanted a hug? Oftentimes, here's the thing. When they want something and you say no to them, and then they come in with, I want a hug. So they know that's going to pull you in. So is she trying to manipulate you and pull you in and then has a tantrum because I need a hug. That didn't work. So I need to know why. Was she truly upset? Did she fall down and needed a hug? Then after the tantrum, but then I would address her right away anyway. So you see, it's like usually they'll say, I want a hug when they're mad. Like you'll say no to them. I want a hug. That's manipulation right there. Guaranteed, 100%. That is manipulation.
One thing you didn't touch on before that I think would be a good point is differentiating tantrums from needs versus wants, because you do approach those differently.
Well, you meet their needs and manage their wants. Most tantrums are around wants. I want that. You can't have it. Oh, well, I'm going to have a fit. Needs, you always meet their needs. If they're having a tantrum because they're sick, they're cold, they're tired, they're hungry, you meet their needs. You don't ignore the tantrum. You ignore the tantrum, but you meet their needs. If they're having a freaking tantrum and having an absolute fit because I know they're really hungry, I'm going to cuddle them, hold them in my lap, and I'm going to hand feed them if I have to. I'm going to meet their needs before anything else. I never ignore a tantrum that's based on a need not met. Ever. Ever. If they're sick, I give them whatever they want. If they're tired, I get them to bed. I lay in bed with them if I have to, if they're having a tantrum. I get them in bed. I make sure their needs are met. So that's number one. Of course it's number one. You're not ignoring their needs.
Okay. Next question is Molly from Australia. So my 11-month-old has started throwing tantrums, falling in a heap on the floor and crying when I take something from her or won't let her into certain areas of the house, cupboard under the sink with cleaning items, cat litter, toilet brush. You've said to calmly sit and wait during the tantrum, and I never get on my phone or watch TV. But what if her tantrum is while I'm doing chores, such as putting laundry away, washing dishes, cooking dinner? It seems reasonable to continue my task as long as I remind her that I'm there, then get really excited and celebrate her when she decides to ask for a cuddle or find something to do. Is this an acceptable approach, or should I stop what I'm doing and make it clear I'm calmly waiting for her to finish her tantrum?
No, you're kind of getting this mixed up a little bit. I I won't go into how, but when I talk about ignoring tantrums, that's with toddlers, not with babies. She's a baby. They're a baby till they're about 15 months old. I use redirection with babies. I don't ignore tantrums with babies. I address them. So I say, oh, what's over here? So if they start having a tantrum, I'm redirecting. I'm reading them a book or doing something else. I'm redirecting. That's all I need to say about that. I don't ignore baby tantrums. No, I wouldn't. She's just a baby. You're confusing her. I won't go into all that because there's no need, because now I've told you what to do instead. You redirect.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get caught up in getting angry at what people are doing wrong because they're told to do these things. That frustrates the heck out of me. But I'm not going to go into that, because what you're doing wrong kind of, it's not like it's seemingly wrong, but in my world it is. So it's very specific. It's too detailed. But yeah, just redirect. Redirect babies up to about 15 months. And then at 16 months, around there, it's a gray area. That's when I start ignoring.
Okay. Brianna from the United States. My daughter is 4 years old. She has speech delay but can talk some. At school, she started throwing huge tantrums because she threw such a big tantrum 2 months ago. The school called me to go get her. So now she knows what she has to do to be able to go home. I told the school that the doctor recommends not sending her home because then this cycle will never end. So the school is trying their best not to send her home, but in turn, she's having bigger and bigger tantrums. So my main question is, during her tantrum, she screams, kicks, hits, and throws things, including furniture. How do I make her at least stop throwing things? She throws anything within her reach.
Well, there's nothing you can do if you're not at school. How can you do that from afar? Does she have tantrums at home? You deal with the behavior at home, and then it bleeds into the school. So you fix this stuff at home. Now, at 4 years, that's a tricky one, because I don't want the teachers to have to go through this. So you're asking me to tell the teachers what to do. You see you're not there. So that's what I got my hands tied here. It's frustrating. I would need to know, does she have tantrums at home, and are you dealing with them effectively at home? Because usually and she's 4, usually by that age, if you're a leader, and they respect you, you send them out into the world respectful to everybody else. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to keep this general. My general response to you is work on your leadership skills, and that won't happen. You can't do anything. There's no way I'm going to tell you what to tell the teachers to do. So it's too big of an ask. They don't have one kid that they're trying to deal with. They've got like 30 or 20 or 30. So you can't ask too much of teachers. So yeah, work on it at home. Set yourself up as a leader, and then they'll be respectful everywhere. Your leadership skills forms their personality, their behavior, their social skills. It's your leadership. So she's doing it as a result of your parenting, for sure. And you also mentioned speech delay. A lot of parents tend to overcompensate for speech delay. Speech delay doesn't always go hand in hand with cognitive delay. So she can understand, but we tend to so I notice a lot of parents that I work with that talk about speech delay. I just delayed my speech for a second there. Anyway, they tend to overcompensate and maybe let a little bit too much go because they feel bad for the child. Don't do that. Pity is not helping. I don't know if you are or not, but a lot of my clients do. They say, I feel bad for her, but don't do that. So pity doesn't help. So yeah, teach her about respect by being a leader. So remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. So I'm guessing you're not a leader. She wouldn't be doing that at school if you were. It'd be very, very unlikely.
Would the first step be maybe looking at the behavior board?
Look at the behavior board, which is completely free. The next step is get the course. A lot of my coaching clients already have the course and they use it for reference material. They realize they want more personal attention, and that would be coaching. So, but yeah, the course, I would check out actually the course, the 3 to 12-year-old boot camp course. I don't know if the behavior board would be enough in this situation. If she's hitting and throwing at 4 years old at teachers, around teachers, that's a little bit next level. So yeah.
Okay. Louise from France. My son is 20 months old. He doesn't usually have tantrums, but sometimes if he's tired, bad nap or bad night, he has one, usually doesn't last long. Should I do your tantrum routine even though he's not in his right mind? Thanks a lot.
No, that I already addressed that, because that's the need. If he's tired, don't treat it like a tantrum. Treat it like you need to meet his needs. Make sure he gets into bed, comfort him, and then leave him, let him cry it out. Potentially always kind of start with that, let him cry it out. But yeah, meet his needs. The tantrum, because he's tired, like you said, he's not in his right mind. Well, what toddler is anyway, but they don't have a right mind yet. So their mind is kind of wrong. It's just not formed yet. So yeah, he's just really little. So yeah, just get him in bed. It's not a tantrum. It is, but it's because my needs aren't being met. That's different.
Okay. Chloe from Ireland. We are following your tantrum advice for my 20-month-old, and it is helping. But how does it work when you need them to put on their shoes or coat or get in the stroller and they choose that moment to protest? He will scream and go rigid when we try to do these things, even when we mention what will be happening repeatedly in the lead up so he knows what's coming. We tried loads of things to not have to force him in, the coat monster game or talking about the great things we'll see outside. And sometimes that works, but other times nothing will pacify him in those tight time scenarios of making it to daycare on time or getting back into the stroller. We legitimately don't have time to wait him out. What would be the best approach?
Well, he senses your weakness. So do I. Because you said we give him lots of warnings and this and that. Yeah, it's not working with him. I would say, okay, off we go. And he starts screaming and crying. I pick him up. I hold him over the stroller or over the car seat, wherever your transportation is. And I wait for him to weaken a little bit, fold him in half, buckle him in, and just go. You got to win the physical battles with little ones. He's testing you out. He sees a fight coming. Okay, we're going to be going soon. He's revving up. He's just going, you know what? I'm going to handle you. So yeah. And they figured, it's funny because I always say they're just kind of one marble and some tumbleweed, but they're already reading you. And the interesting thing is that they can pick up on your weaknesses like you wouldn't believe. They are watching you and listening. And even I can tell your tone of voice even there. Okay, we're going to be, and the coat monster, you're probably shaking while you're saying it. Here comes the coat monster. Like he senses your weakness. I would say, okay, let's get your coat on. And then I don't say another word. I take action. So when I say we're going to be doing something, it's followed up by actions. But you got to be ready for war. They're not all like that. Some of them won't fight you at all. You never fought me with anything. And neither did your brother, really. He had tantrums. Oh, transitions. If we were leaving somewhere fun, he would have tantrums. But you just didn't have that in you to fight. They don't all fight. But yeah, most of them will give it a go. But yeah, just say we're going to be putting if you know he's a fighter, you say, okay, we're going to be getting your coat on and going. Put his coat on, kicking and screaming, let him kick and scream, and then get him in the car. It might take twice as long, but you got to follow up that one statement by action right away. Your warnings sound weak. The coat monster and all that stuff. Yeah, it's very weak. He's picking up on that. He's using it against you. 100%, I can tell just by what you were saying. A few things you said there. Yeah, he's got your number. They're very clever with this. It's quite fascinating. Because I always say, they're just sort of forming and all that, but they seem to form the ability to figure and manipulate parents quicker than any other ability. It's just amazing how clever they are with that.
I've seen parents online push back when you say manipulate, as if like, how could a toddler possibly manipulate?
It's the first thing they learn. It's like the first skill that they learn is how to manipulate weak parents. It's the absolute first thing.
Yeah.
How on earth can they not? That's what they do. They figure you out and they figure out how to get what they want from weak parents.
I think the reason, maybe the idea is like, it's not coming from like ill intentions, these toddlers. They want what they want.
Well, they want what they want. It doesn't come from being evil. It comes from, I know how to get what I want. Or you could perceive that as evil.
Most toddlers are not
evil. You know
evil.
what's funny is in coaching is my absolute favorite thing to do because I'm, back and forth with parents and I get to know them. And then they'll tell me something and they'll be really embarrassed and all upset and I'll be laughing. They'll say, why are you laughing? I'll say, because I hear this all the time. They literally think that their toddler is the only one that's like this. Like, unbelievable. And they say, I hear it every day. I just had a client right before you, the exact same situation. And then they end up laughing and get perspective. Parents tend to expect too much from toddlers and not enough from teenagers. You'd think it'd be the other way around, but it's not. They expect too much from toddlers and too little from teenagers almost every time. Like when I'm working with them, because they don't hire me because everything's going great. They hire me because they're struggling.
Okay, so we're going to do the next question. Deanna from the United States. My children are 3 and 5, 16 months apart. I can handle ignoring a tantrum, but my husband cannot. I was the pleaser parent and he is still in the authoritative role. Sometimes he will lose it on our kids and send them to their room for a tantrum. Is this totally ruining my progress, or do I just ignore that too?
Well, if you're the pleaser, that's not what I teach. And I also don't teach the authority. Those are completely different. I teach leadership. So I would just say there's no big picture here. Like what I mean is there's no one sentence I could say to you. I would check out the behavior board and just keep watching and look at the pool story. The pool story is, the video is called Example of Leadership Parenting. It's on all my platforms. And it's usually near the top because we've pinned it. Anyway, so it's called Example of Leadership Parenting. It's really a shame we can't go back and change that video and call it the pool story, because it is the pool story, but it explains leadership parenting, and that you'll get him on board with that. You got a chance of getting your husband on board with that. And because it's about dealing with I don't let anything go. I deal with bad behavior, but then I focus on the good kid. I know how to get the best out of kids. That's all I teach here. I'm here to get the best out of kids, increase their self-esteem, and therefore they treat you like gold, and vice versa. It's mutual, right? So maybe get them on board with that and you guys can go from there, because it sounds like you're just you want some big answer for something it's a whole system. It's a whole methodology.
So I'm going to give a little hack. If you are, because in your DMs, you get quite a few questions that you have already answered before. So we can't do this on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, but on YouTube, if you go to BratBusters Parenting, we have a channel for BratBusters. If you go there, there's a search bar. You can look up the pool story. You can look up any question you have. If you have a question about biting or something like that. So,
or you can just go on YouTube without even finding our channel and go BratBusters Pool Story. Would that work?
That might work, but I know that if you go to the channel, you search it up, whatever video has done should show up because it's a search engine. So
it is the best story that I have. Actually, I have a better one, but it's on steroids. It's with teenagers. I only tell that in coaching. It might scare some parents, but anyway, it's kind of next level. But it's the same thing. I don't let anything go. I deal with bad behavior, but I'm very calm and I get it done fast and I don't talk about it afterwards. But then I focus on the good kid.
You know what's funny is I've heard the pool story probably hundreds of times at this point. I've never heard the other one because I only listen to your lives.
You got to hire me for coaching to hear it. It's funny that you've never heard that.
I've never heard it.
Oh, I don't think I'll ever tell you, just to keep you in the dark. It is the pool story, but it's so next level. It's with it's because I used to work with troubled teenagers, and it's a story about one of them, and it's a good one. But it is the pool story, but just on steroids. And I often tell that with people who don't even have I specialize in teenagers, but I often tell that story with people who just have like kids, not even teenagers yet, because it's such a good message. But I can't tell it here. I don't know why. I just don't tend to tell it anywhere but coaching. Because I have to tell some nitty details to give it context. I think that's what it is. There's some swearing in it. It's sort of, it's kind of next level. Anyway, but it's the pool story. It's the exact same idea. It's the exact same feeling that you get. Those kids come out of it knowing, hey, she has standards and rules and boundaries, but you know what? She likes me and I like her. I'm going to treat her well. That's what I do. So it makes them feel good about themselves. If your goal as a parent is not that they feel good about you, that's ridiculous. That's narcissistic. Your goal is that they feel good about themselves. And if you're the cause of that, how do you think they're going to treat you?
Is it the idea that you care enough to...
I care enough to do what it takes to make you feel good about yourself. I love kids enough and teenagers. I've worked with thousands of them. I care enough about them to bring out the best in them so that they like themselves. That's what they need. That's leadership. It's mentorship, really. And that's sort of parenting, way I did it. But yeah, I care enough about kids to make them like themselves. One kid, a teenager I worked with, said, I didn't like myself until I met you, Lisa. That was one of the nicest things anyone ever said to me. I think I said back, well, I liked myself before I met you, but I'm sure I would have said that. I don't remember. I always came up with a smart remark, but yeah, think about it. Are you bringing out the best in your kids, or are you just trying to get them to behave? There's a difference, a big difference. I don't focus on discipline. I know that's what people always ask me about discipline. That's not what I'm about at all. It's a tiny, tiny part of what I teach. I'm more about connecting. and bonding with kids. Anyway, enough about that.
Okay, we have one final question. So Sarah from the United States. How do I discipline a 3-year-old boy when he's constantly saying no and or high-pitched screaming and or throwing things to purposefully hit me? For context, he is growing up in separate households. His dad lives in Chicago and I live in Alaska. He does not stop throwing tantrums or saying no with timeout, spanking, gentle parenting, etc. I feel like I've tried everything and nothing seems to help.
Okay, I don't have any general answers other than check out the behavior board. And on there, your consequence is the bonding part, the connecting part. So if you yell, you put down no yelling as your rule, and your consequence is 10 minutes of kid-led play. So he gets to lead the play. By the way, I want to address the 2 separate households too. Children instinctively follow the leader. It's just a natural instinct for a child to look for, need, crave, and want a leader. And they tend to form more based on who they are with that leader, because that's when their self-esteem is at the highest. Okay, so whatever's done at the other household, don't worry about that. There might be a slight transition adjustment when they come to you, but eventually they'll calm down, realize they're with the leader again. Work on yourself, work on your leadership skills. That is your biggest power as a parent, is your leadership skills. Like I just said, we're not trying to get them to behave, we're trying to get them to like themselves. Kids who have high self-esteem behave, they just do. Doesn't that make sense? If you feel good about yourself, you're not mean or difficult or nothing. Your self-esteem is so high that you wouldn't dream of being mean or anything. So yeah, work on your parenting, work on your leadership skills. Don't worry about the other household. Kids will instinctively be more formed by the household that makes them feel better about themselves, which is what leadership's all about. Okay.
That's all the questions.
Okay, thanks so much for that. I did say I don't like talking about tantrums, but turned out I came out with a few comments, as I always do. I love parenting. I love talking about it. I love helping parents. It is my mission in life to help as many parents as possible. And I do so by doing the podcast, all the videos, the lives, and the courses and coaching, of course. So it starts, if you want free stuff, you can see all these videos, podcasts. The behavior board is completely free. And then next level would be the courses. I have 2 of them, one for toddlers, one for 3 to 12-year-olds. It's all about you and your leadership skills. Parents learn that very quickly with me. It's not about your kids, it's about you. I'm teaching parenting here, not kidding, not teenagering, not toddlering. Okay, and at the highest level would be one-on-one coaching with me. I do have a wait list for that, but lots of parents want to choose that anyway because they want the personal touch. Anyway, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk again next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out BratBusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit BratBusters.com/disclaimer.